In this video, we're going to talk about how to use and interpret Journeyfront scorecards. Once in a scorecard, you can visualize any information that was collected on a candidate throughout the entirety of the hiring process. At the top of the scorecard, you'll see 5 different tabs: score, steps, notes, resume, and assessments. We'll start with the most important tab, score. This tab's most important because it's the tab whose scores drive the overall score that you see listed at the top right of the scorecard, and the score that is most visible from within the job rec. This tab is a summary of all of the different attributes that were evaluated on this candidate, in this case Jahar, throughout the entirety of the process. You'll see different attribute buckets: important attributes and professional background in this example. These buckets are completely customizable, meaning customers can control whatever it is they want these buckets to be. Could be prior background, could be soft skills versus hard skills, could be really any deep dive on however you want to categorize the traits. Within each bucket, you will see a list of the traits that were measured during the hiring process. These are the key ingredients that you looked for on candidates during this hiring process. In this case, communication skills, empathy, problem solver, and reliability. You actually can access the definitions of these traits as well and see more information if you so desire. Across the right side of the scorecard, you have a summary of any information that was collected on this candidate that led to these scores of attributes. So you have data that was actually collected from the applicant, him or herself, as well as data that was collected by interviewers. So within data from applicants, you'll see we have assessments and we have screening questions, 2 different modules that Journeyfront offers that help you collect data on applicants. In this case, there's no data on the assessment, but there was data that was collected using screening questions that the candidate took. And so you can actually dive into how this candidate corresponded to the traits that you were measuring within the screening questions, in this case, academic attainment, as well as prior relevant work experience. So these are the different questions that the candidate answered. How much prior customer support experience do you have? And you can see that the candidate gave an answer of 3+ years, which you marked as a 5. In other words, this was the ideal score of the questions that you sent to the candidate based on what you were looking for. You can also see next data from interviewers. So in this case, there were 4 different interviewers that evaluated this candidate, Jahar, across the entirety of the hiring process: Angela, Daniel, Sam, and Spencer. What you're looking at is a summary of how each interviewer scored the candidate across the buckets, important attributes, as well as professional background, as well as down to the individual attribute level. So in this case, you can see Angela scored this candidate, Jahar, a 5, 4, and 5 on communication skills, empathy, and problem solving, respectively. Daniel scored this candidate a 3.5 on communication skills and a 4.5 on reliability. The reason this is powerful is because it allows you a means of immediately visualizing against the key ingredients for success that you're measuring for, the key traits you're looking for in the hiring process, how this candidate aligns with those key ingredients and how different interviewers evaluated that candidate. So you can immediately see where interviewers agreed or disagreed across the different traits that were evaluated. So in this case, empathy was a trait being measured, and Angela and Sam both gave fairly similar scores on empathy, a score of 4 and a score on 5, and all of this is on a 1 to 5 scale, of course. You can see another trait, communication skills, where we have very different views across the different interviewers. So if you dive into what's causing that view, just click on the actual trait, and it will open up, how did we measure this trait? Well, we did a work sample with the candidate, which was run by Angela here, in which the candidate got a 5, and we did an interview where we just asked the candidate to talk about themselves, and Daniel and Spencer both evaluated the candidate based on their answers. You'll notice that you can also, if you want to have a feel for why the interviewer gave the score they did, drill into that interviewer's actual notes through a hover over or just clicking in, for those of us that write lots of details in our notes, and you can see the evidence that the interviewer gave for the score they gave. That is what the score tab reveals. Here at the end is just a summary of all of those different ways in which we evaluated these traits. So this is taking all the different inputs that led to a view on this candidate's communication skills, and across all those inputs, the total score is 3.67.